Jaye Kershler, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Hey mate, how you going?
Yeah, very, very well. It's been a little while since we caught up. How's things been?
Yeah, going good, mate. Cruising along. Can't complain up here on the sunny coast.
Yeah, I was listening to some lovely birds beforehand, mate. Making me jealous. Is it how's the weather today?
Yeah, it's actually ripper up here. It's usually pretty good most times, but yeah, no, it's good. Blue
For everyone,
skies, mate. Blue
everyone
skies.
listening, it's 17th of November and it still feels like the middle of winter in Melbourne. So I think I'll have to make that move to Queensland sooner than expected.
Yeah, mate, you do. I see you sort of looking around the Goldie, mate. You got to get up here.
The problem is the market's increased by like 70% in the last 2 years, which is crazy. But anyway,
Yeah, you do
um,
your research, mate. And you just look at these crazy growth numbers everywhere, eh?
yeah, I mean, do you feel like it's starting to cool off a little bit?
I think it is. Like in particular on the Sunshine Coast, it has a bit more. Sort of where I'm sort of looking at some areas down in Logan and been buying there. It's definitely holding up better there. You might get a few better deals or a little bit cheaper than you might have expected, but it's good quality properties still getting good prices. And yeah, sometimes I get surprised when I go to an auction and you see a great result. And yeah, everyone's different.
That's the biggest thing. Hey, I think good property will always have multiple people wanting to buy it, which means there's always demand and
Yeah.
um, should hold its value pretty consistently over time.
100%, mate. Well, we were at an auction a couple of weeks ago, and me and a couple of other buyers agents were talking about, and we all sort of set an expectation around roughly 1.4, and like it's going at 1.5 above, and we're just having a laugh, like what's going on here? Are we in the market or what? Like it's just crazy demand.
That's crazy.
Not every property is like that. It's just the odd one.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see how, because like there was a lot of sea change, tree change moving to Queensland during the pandemic and even like a little bit after as well. I mean, we're making the move, so there's still that sort of demand, but it'll be interesting to see if that slows down, how it will play with things. I saw something in the news the other day around someone who did the move and ended up coming back to Melbourne now. So
Yeah.
see how much of that happens. But yeah, I think nonetheless, it's the place has completely changed to what it was sort of 5, 10 years ago. Anyway, it is definitely a more cruisier lifestyle, but I think all that sort of cafe vibe and Melbourne culture and really
Yeah.
nice cruise are starting to take off over there anyway. So that
Yeah.
whole landscape's changed.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good.
Well, onto the property side of things, mate. I guess what would you be your philosophy around building out a portfolio over the long term?
Um, I sort of think everyone's sort of different, obviously, with their incomes and expenses and financial goals and whatnot. For me personally, I sort of like to buy a balanced asset from the start that's sort of cash flow neutral where possible. Um, Buy in family own occupied areas, lots of demand there. People actually want to live there, like we were saying, close to your cafes or by the beach. Your sort of A grade properties. Um, and yeah, basically that there's going to be they've performed well over the long term when you look at long growth periods, but also moving forward, you want to make sure that there's going to be that growth in the shorter term as well to continue, so that you can expand the portfolio quicker.
Yeah, it's a really good way of thinking about it. Everyone is different and has their own sort of unique situations and incomes and circumstances. So build something that's relevant and unique to you.
Yeah,
Those key fundamentals in mind.
yeah,
Um, if you had the opportunity to go back and talk to young Jay, when you
yeah.
first started building out your portfolio, what would you go back and tell yourself if you could?
It'd probably be I went for more of a yield play at the start rather than capital growth, and I sort of bought where I knew those sorts of things, and this area has performed quite well. Not to say it hasn't, but capital growth would have been the better play, I think. Doing the suburb research and the due diligence there, I think, yeah, could have had so much more equity rather than going the yield play. And yeah, probably just when you got the serviceability and borrowing capacities at the time, like really just putting your best foot forward at the time. Like no one's got a crystal ball with what's going to happen. Like as long as you can comfortably borrow that money and you're not going to overstretch yourself, like really extend your limit. Whereas some of the purchases I did, I didn't do that. And I look back now, and you jump on compound growth calculators, and you say, "Oh, what could it have been?" You know what I mean? So no real regrets. It's just there could have been a different scenario and building portfolio quicker and whatnot.
Yeah, it's definitely a big learning curve, and I tend to always want to go for sort of the growth first, so that you can pull out that equity and allow you to get into
Yeah,
those subsequent purchases.
yeah,
But again, everyone's different. Like if someone's in a position where they might be in an awkward position financially or something like that, but had the ability to finance, maybe that cash flow property would get them through a certain period. But I think you're bang on in terms of going for growth first, so you can utilize that growth and pull out the equity. Um,
yeah.
and I suppose within that, and it might be sort of crossing paths with what we're
Mm.
talking about, but if there was something you would change about your portfolio, or if there's a bit of mistake that you've made through your journey, what would it be?
Yeah, it would just be really nailing down the suburb research, I think, from the start. Don't look at it as an emotional investment. Like everyone says, buy in your backyard and whatnot, and that's where that most people seem to get started. But just really looking at the fundamentals, looking at the demographics of suburbs and incomes and whatnot, and is there big things happening in the area like infrastructure and whatnot. I just think you really can fast track yourself if you go down that route. Whereas if you just buy hay willy nilly, it's you're just playing the waiting game. And yes, property is a waiting game, but you can sort of fast track it by getting better on your suburb research.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You're right. If you taking sort of that longer term view, typically property increases at 6.8% on average over the last 30 years. And so it should, and that's a whole blanket across Australia. Obviously, there's thousands of sub-markets across Australia, so everything performs differently. But you just got
Yeah,
to playing that waiting game. Okay, well, when's our suburbs turn? But if you do your due diligence and your research, I still think, stick to those really good fundamentals, but there are particular areas with um, drivers that may help in the short term to help build that equity, and then allowing that equity to extract and get into the next spot. Now, I'm not much of a hot spotter as per se. Like
yeah,
I wouldn't go
yeah,
out and go, no, this is going to be the biggest next growth driver. I'd always stick to fundamentals. But if you were capped at a certain price, or had particular requirements that you needed to be somewhere, I
yeah.
definitely think doing that research on the ground is such a big one.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. Like, really just looking into the own occupied areas. Where do people actually want to live? Um, where are the good schools, the cafes? Like, you can't really go wrong. And then it's just a matter of buying the A grade property in that area. Don't go for the B or C grade property. If it needs renovation, it needs renovation. Or if you can subdivide to manufacture equity or whatnot later, like that's just ticking boxes, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So tell me about the business, mate. When did like investing in property and the passion for it start to really ignite? And then how did you end up transferring that into the business and stepping out on your own? I mean, we're talking off air that you really started things up sort of early this year, like real early
Yep.
this year, and been really pushing from there. But how did that whole journey come about?
Oh, look, I think um, I'm a plumber. I was a plumber by trade in my background, and I was sort of working doing in the mines work. Had a lot of time to yourself and learning about podcasts and all these sorts of things. And sort of probably 2015, 2016, I really started honing in on these and reading and getting on property chat and spending so many hours just learning and reading about all this stuff and really sort of got a passion for it. And then, yeah, just started investing myself over time and whatnot, growing the portfolio. And then, yeah, sort of COVID hit, and I was working in Western Australia at the time, and traveling to Western Australia was an absolute nightmare. So I had a lot of time off work, and I sort of knew I wanted to go down the route of property investment sort of space and guiding people, because all I do at work is talk about property investing. Um, but yeah, then I just took the dive basically, and did the Property Investment Professionals Australia course, and yeah, went from there, mate. It's been good ever since. It's sort of the nudge I needed in a way, and I think a lot of people sort of got that through COVID, and it's been a blessing, and I'm not going to look back, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's the same as me. I did the did the course and sort of went through that route and wanted to find an avenue in that worked really well with my skill set. So just
Yeah.
slowly progress into it over time. I love it. Um,
Yeah.
Now there's 1,001 of them out there, but if you had one favorite property one liner, what would it be?
Um, Probably don't wait to buy real estate and wait. Is that how it's said? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think just yeah, you can try and time the market as much as you want, but we all know property is a long game, and if we can hold it for 20, 30 years and buy a good asset, that's all you really need to do, isn't it?
It's perfect advice for me in my current state. We're looking to buy, but then as I said, the market's gone pretty crazy, and so it's like, well, how long do we wait and watch and see what happens? And maybe if interest rates keep going up, inflation, unemployment, what happens? But at the
Yeah,
end of the day, even if the market dips down another 10, 20%, if you're getting into an asset that will potentially be our home and you're
yeah,
really happy there, then that particular asset may never come back on the market again. And so
yeah,
may as well, take advantage, as you said before, of getting into an A grade and not just settling for a B or C grade
yeah,
while you can, and then
yeah.
you hold it over the long term.
Yeah, I think like with you and your game plans and building portfolios, it's if you can afford to manage everything and you got all your buffers in place, then you just got to go for it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what
exactly,
it's
mate.
there for.
I'll appreciate the shout out. Um, Mate, it's always a pleasure having a bit of a chat. I'll have to get you back on again sometime soon.
Sounds
Um,
great.
always good catching up. And I'll have to come visit you when I'm in the tent when I'm
Definitely, mate.
in the sunshine,
Definitely.
bro.
Be good, mate. Be good. Catch up.
Be awesome. All right, mate. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, mate. Have a good one.